Hello, everybody. The Belmont chapter of the National Honor Society thanks you for attending Candidates Night. So we're going to start out. Each speaker will introduce themselves, then answer questions posed by members of the Belmont High School chapter of NHS. Afterward, candidates will have a maximum of 5 minutes for additional comments. Tonight's Candidate Night will be filmed with the intent to stream at a later date. So let's begin. So for all of you, could you please introduce yourself and tell us what you love about Belmont or Canterbury for Selectmen, Shaker Regional School District, for the school.
Thank you. So my name is Mark Ekberg. I feel that I'm somewhat of a known quantity. I've been serving the last 3 years as a board member, up for re-election this year. If you watch any of the school board meetings, you either know what side of the issue that I'm on. I have 23 years of education experience. I've taught in multiple states. I've been building principal, master's in administration, currently a building inspector, which is also a major education piece to the people that I come in contact with on a daily basis. I bring a lot to the table. I've worked under, like I said, different schools, from 150 students for an entire district, or entire school, K to 12, all the way up to, I think Boise, Idaho, we had 25,000 students in the district when I was there. So I've seen about everything that there is to see as far as public education goes, from schedules to length of school year to start times, end times. You name it, I've lived it and I've experienced it. Being a long time resident in New Hampshire, I'm a product of the Shaker Regional School District. Had a couple of stints of a few years here and there where I was not in Belmont, but I've been back since 2012 and here to stay. I have 2 kids within the system, and we're here to make positive impacts. In light of everything that's coming down the line from the state level, whether I'm sure we'll have questions about funding and open enrollment and everything else. We're here to do the best that we can with the resources that we have, and hopefully get your vote. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Schofield, and I've lived in Belmont for a little over 20 years or so. My wife Robin, she's a Belmont native, lived here almost her whole life. My kids are Brendan and Morgan, have always attended the Shaker Regional School District schools. Brendan graduated last year, class of 2025, and Morgan's currently a freshman here at the high school. I'm also a teacher. I'm a 15-year teacher. I work over at the Hewitt Technical Center over in Laconia. Like I said, I teach plumbing and heating, so I see kids from 7 different school districts. All kinds of cool stuff with that. I'm a master plumber. I'm a service technician, gas license. I'm a graduate of Granite State College. So I kind of have a mixed bag of things that I've done and been involved with that. Over the years in the district, I've been involved with sports as a fan, as a parent, as a coach. So I have experience in that regard with the sports and extracurriculars outside of just teaching school. I also served on the Belknap Mill Board over in Laconia as a board member a couple of years ago. I got a little bit of a wide berth of experience with different things like that. Being a plumbing and heating teacher has given me the opportunity to help students along the avenue of becoming a licensed tradesperson, which is a really important thing and a shortage of that right now. But also they have college opportunity through a program like mine. We have early college through the community college system in New Hampshire, so students can get a jump start for lower money. They get a lot of classes for free down at Manchester Community College. They have a great HVAC program, and we send students down through that program quite a bit. So I think, I come at this with the school board from the side of students, right? We want to take care of our tax rate and things like that in the town, but we also got to remember that our kids are going to be community members, right? They're going to live in the community and continue to foster what we have going on. So I think it's important to think of it from that standpoint as well. Thanks for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Haggett. I'm a near lifelong New Hampshire resident, stayed for a few years in my 20s where I thought that living in Florida was going to be paradise. I learned really quickly that was not the case. I love New Hampshire values and ideals, and I knew I wanted a small town life for my children. I moved to Belmont in 2013. I have 3 children, a stepson, Andrew, who graduated from NHTI in 2020, a daughter, Stella, who also graduated from Belmont last year, and my son, Wyatt, who's currently a junior here. You can find me most every night here at the high school cheering on one team or another. You can ask any of these kids. They all know me. I'm here all the time. I have been the night nurse at a small nonprofit in Samberton for about 10 years. Night shift, as I've always wanted to be as involved as humanly possible in my kids' lives and in the kids in the community's lives. Not every kid is as lucky to have me showing up as my kids, to have someone showing up for them at every event. So try to make sure that I know every kid in this area the best I can, whether it's robotics events, arts, art, theater performances. One way or another, I try my best to get here or away events, wherever, to support these kids. In the current economy, it's near impossible to be active in your child's lives and also fulfill your duties as an employee and to pay your taxes. Uniquely, this has allowed me to run for a position like this, and like I said, to be active. This summer, I was able to help coach our Belmont baseball organization, Babe Ruth team, back-to-back state championships, and then take them to the regional level this year in Springfield, Mass, where they represented our towns beautifully. Everyone was really impressed with our kids and the way they handled themselves and represented. I have some experience being on a school board of sorts, as I sat on the policy council of Head Start for Merrimack County, an elected position where I sat for a term. I was then nominated and voted on to the National Head Start Association Policy Council, where I sat as New Hampshire State Representative for a term. Through this position, which was wholly federally funded, I was able to see how to develop effective budgets and was advocating for more funding by meeting directly with congressmen and legislators more locally. And recently, I was active through Laconia Little League's board of directors as an executive board member, serving on the board for 3 terms, during which I received an award for faithful and dedicated service to the league and children of the Lakes region. All of this to say that I don't back down from the challenge of helping my community succeed, and I hope that I can get your support. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Cheshire. My husband and I moved to Belmont in 2013, so we're almost to the 13-year point of living here in this town. For 45 years, I spent my life in public school education as a speech language pathologist, helping kids to communicate and helping support the families. Just recently, I was on the advisory budget committee for the town so that I could learn more about the challenges of the budget that the school faces. And so I was able to learn quite a bit and understand better how the school and the school district runs. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alice Todd. I have lived in Canterbury since 2014, and I am coming to you as a currently seated school board member. I'm currently the vice chair of the school board. I am coming with experience. My adult career is in financial compliance, legal compliance. So I have spent the last 3 years on the policy committee within the Shaker Regional School District, making sure that policies work for our students, our staff, and our community. That's me.
Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Nordy. I'm the only candidate for Canterbury Selectmen running unopposed this year. This will be a second term for me. So I right now, I introduce myself as a farmer. My wife and I are and operate Sandborn Meadow Farm in Canterbury. We do organic veggies and chicken eggs. So it's a great life. I did about 40 years in public safety as a paramedic, a firefighter. Lost my mind and became a cop in my 50s. I think I set a record in New York that still stands as the oldest graduate from a police academy. So it was very interesting, to say the least. So some federal agents found out about me, came and recruited me onto a team of federal agents chasing violent felons around New York State. So I got a few stories if you want to hear them. So most of my last 25 or 30 years have been spent in leadership roles. So a lot of experience with fairly large budgets, and it's been a good ride. So that's me.
Good evening, and thank you everyone for coming. And I want to thank the Honor Society for hosting this event first. Thank you very much on that. I moved to Belmont in 1987 with my wife and 2 young kids. And shortly after moving here, we fell in love with the town and decided this was the place we were going to stay. I joined the Belmont Fire Department in 1991 as a call member and worked for them up until 2001 when the town voted to have us 24/7 at the fire station. Before they were just there during weekdays, not at night, not on weekends. During my working at the fire department full-time, I moved my way up to a lieutenant and then became in charge of different sections of the fire department, which I helped with the budgeting on that and making suggestions on the budget on that. So I know a little bit about budgeting part, or, through things like that. So I served on the fire department until 2024, and that's when I retired. Where I was at the fire department, I was involved with many different items with the fire department. I'd get involved with the school programs that they had, planning them and participating in them, as far as like doing fire safety stuff, all the way from elementary school up to the high school, where they were doing like a job fair for people to get interested in different, occupations to go into. When I took and retired from the fire department, I was in 24. I was selected, nominated, or whatever, to be the Grand Marshal of Old Home Day, which was an honor and a privilege to do that. And it was to be able to ride in the parade as the Grand Marshal made me very happy that I was getting honored by the town. I've worked at the Old Home Day for many, many years, being the road race announcer and announcing for the parade and anything else that they would ask. And I would very much appreciate your support, and thank you.
My name is Travis O'Hara. I'm running for Select Board. This will be my 2nd term on the Select Board. While being on Select Board, I was the Selectmen representative for the Heritage Commission. Prior to coming to the Select Board, I was the state representative for Belmont and Laconia, where I served on the county delegation and on their budget committee. I think with my experience at the State House and in county government, I have connections that can help this town when it comes to issues with DES and other local law issues that come down the line. For example, with the school board, when it comes to open enrollment and the SWEP tax and all of that. There's big issues that we can address, but it has to be done together, and I think we can do that all together. Prior to being involved with politics, I did get my degree in accounting and finance from Granite State College. And while doing that, I moved to Belmont when I was 16 because I had my daughter here, and I was on the board for Lake Stream Girls Softball. Other than that, I just work.
Hi, my name is Mark Lewandowski. This is my first time running for a public office. I came to New Hampshire in 1977, where I started my law enforcement career. In 1978, I was sworn in as a full-time police officer. I've served the town of Belmont since then. I retired in February of 2025 at the rank of chief. I held that position for just under 15 years. So I have extensive knowledge of building a budget and executing a budget. One of the things that I've prided myself over the years has been that I'm conservative when I build them and I'm conservative when I spend them. So I think I can be a real asset when it comes to the Board of Selectmen and building budgets and running the town and being selective on where the money goes and how it goes. I'm married. We have 2 kids we put through school in Belmont. Both of them still live in Belmont. They have children. And 3 of my grandkids go to school in Belmont now. The 4th one hasn't quite reached the age yet, but when she does, you'll know she's here. So when I retired in February of 2025, I thought that was going to be it and I was going to move on. Unfortunately, I became the interim police chief in the town of Woodstock, New Hampshire, and I was there for approximately 5 months. And then they hired a new chief, which sent me on my way back to retirement. I was very happy to do that. However, in January, I was sworn in as the interim police chief in the town of Northfield, a position that I currently still hold. And by the sounds of things, my contract was going to expire in June, but it's going to continue until October. So lucky me on that. As far as the town goes, being in this town for as long as I have and being in the rank and file of the police department, I've participated in a great many events in town. Starting with the fact that I've been a Rotary member in Belmont for over 20 years. We built the Santa's Little Helper program out of Belmont where we've helped countless families for many years with gifts for their children during Christmas. I was also, for many years, the regional director of the Special Olympics Torch Run for New Hampshire. And I've participated a great deal in the Winter and the Summer Olympics with them. It's a great program and it's something that we really enjoy doing. Back early in my career, I actually was a high school baseball coach here for the high school. I played an awful lot of baseball in Connecticut before I moved up here. So I decided to join that and help out. So Old Home Day, been involved in that since I've been here. That's an interesting thing. We developed the National Night Out program for Belmont. I'm sure many of you have attended that. That's a great time. I served on the Conservation Commission for many years. I was actually vice chair of it at one point. That was a good experience because my background is I'm an outdoorsman. I hunt, fish, hike, I do wildlife photography. So I'm pretty active in the outdoors. So that was kind of something that I wanted to do. We also back in the day instituted a program where we did senior dinners, where before a holiday, we would host basically like a turkey dinner or something for seniors and we'd house that for them. That was always done and people thought we were spending taxpayer money when we weren't. It was all donated money that I went around and solicited from companies and people and we were able to put on a really nice event. I'm also the chief hunter ed instructor for this area. I operate out of the Belmont County Sportsman's Club, where I'm also on the board of directors. So I have budget experience with that as well, because we have control of large purse of money as a nonprofit. We do a lot of community events there, and that club is growing, and we're hoping to really take off. Also was an intricate member of the New Hampshire, the Explorer program. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It's a cadet program for kids basically in the high school age or the later middle school, and we can bring them in and it introduces them to law enforcement basically. So that's a pretty good program to see if they're interested in it, and if they are, we can help them in their journey. Other than that, I've been involved in an awful lot of things, and I'm just not going to stand here and talk about it. This is difficult enough to talk about myself. I don't have an I love me wall, so this is tough. But that's it. I would appreciate your vote. That'd be great.
Hi, I'm Bailey. I have another question for you guys. Being on the school board or select board is an important commitment. Explain your past level of involvement and engagement in the town or school board district. Please include any relevant experience on or working with committees, boards, or participating in town or district meetings and events.
We're on the Selectmen candidate question.
The question I asked was just to introduce yourself and talk about what you love. This one is more for
Like
including
your
it,
involvement.
which I guess most of you kind of already did, so.
Well, my. So, given that state and New Hampshire funding for education has decreased each year and that this is leading to the higher property taxes, what do you think the role of the school board is when it comes to the budget and advocating for more funds from the state?
So our role as a Shaken Regional School District, regardless of what the state is doing, saying for us or against us, is to do the best we can with the resources that we have. That being said, as a school board or even as a district, we can't change the revenue stream that comes into the state. There's been multiple districts, I spoke about this last night in Canterbury, that have sued the state for adequate funding. They've won, and yet nothing has changed in excess of a decade. So until the revenue sources change, and that's a completely different debate, we have to do the best with what we have. And the reality is that we have to be the most efficient that we can be, the most responsible that we can be, with the resources that we have, and ultimately try to do the best that we can. Because as an individual district, we're not going to have an impact on changing those funding sources. It's unfortunate, but I believe that to be the truth.
So in my position at Hewitt as a home EE teacher, I have to create and maintain a budget for my program yearly, right? So I'm pretty familiar with that process and setting the budget and then working within it to provide meaningful and quality programming to my students. As we know, New Hampshire's ranked near the bottom with what we get from the state level. Most of our funding is raised from local property taxes and stuff for what we do. So even with that being said, New Hampshire schools still rank really high in quality schooling for students. So it's kind of nice to see that, we do what we can with what we have, but it really would be nice to see a larger portion of money from the state and imagine what we could do for the kids if we had that. So being a school board member, I think it's important that we advocate for funding for the schools and taking care of what we can as much as we can. And using that money wisely, right? Making sure the funds that are there are used properly and take care of it. Sometimes that working within a budget requires some creative work. For example, something that I've done over the years creatively is working with community partners in the area, like FW Web and the Granite Group, and with a little conversation and just chatting with them. They're very good to my program and to my students. So, I think there's other things we can do to help provide the funding and work and just with a little bit of forethought and a little bit of creativity, things can be done. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bailey. That's a really good question. At its core, the school board's role in the budget is stewardship and accountability. We're responsible for proposing a budget that supports high-quality education while being mindful that it's funded largely by local taxpayers. It's slightly over 27 odd percent, give or take, that the state contributes to our local budget. Every line of our budget should connect back to student learning, safety, and required services. That means being thorough, transparent, and disciplined. State funding has decreased, our local state taxes have increased. Our board's responsibility is not to react emotionally, but to plan carefully. We need to look at trends, prioritize classroom instruction, and evaluate our programs for effectiveness. Make thoughtful long-term decisions rather than short-term fixes. Making sure that the community clearly understands what's driving our costs, whether that's contractual obligations. We have the collective bargaining agreements coming up, special education requirements, transportation, our utilities, enrollment changes, and we all know with open enrollment that's coming along that's a very real possibility. In terms of advocacy, we should communicate clearly with our state representatives about the real financial impact on our district. I think I was talking yesterday about how sometimes just going to our state representatives and speaking to them directly about the challenges that our students are facing can be instrumental in just getting in their ears and making a difference. Ultimately, the school board's not going to control the state funding decisions. What we can control is how we manage those resources we receive, how transparently we communicate with the public, and how carefully we plan for the future. And I think that's where our focus should remain. So I thank you very much.
Everything that you said.
Yeah, thank you.
When we look at the budget, we have to check out the enrollment, the staffing needs, and the students' needs as well. We realize that we're raising Gen Z and Gen Alpha. These students have had iPhones and electronic devices all their lives. What we did in the 1990s when you were growing up, it's not the same. We need to look forward to the courses that they need to have to be successful in their lives after they graduate from high school. So I definitely want to check on the students' needs. That comes first, as well as staffing. We may need to eliminate some classes, but then we may need to increase some classes so that the students' needs are met. Thank you.
So it sounds like there's some definite themes that are running across here. The school board has two equally important responsibilities when it comes to funding: fiscal stewardship locally and strong advocacy at the state level. First, we're responsible for building a responsible, transparent budget that serves students, supports our educators, and respects taxpayers. Every dollar has to be aligned to student outcomes and long-term district sustainability. That requires careful planning, prioritization, and community engagement. At the same time, it's clear that education funding in New Hampshire is not working the way it should. And as state contributions decrease, the burden shifts to the local property taxpayers, and that's not sustainable. So school board members simply can't react. We have to advocate. That means that providing testimony on legislation, engaging with our state delegation, and ensuring that lawmakers understand the downstream impacts of funding decisions on real districts and real families. Too often, bills are introduced without full consideration of how they affect the local schools. Our role is to bring that perspective forward clearly and consistently. We owe it to our students, taxpayers to both manage our local budget responsibly and be active voices for fair, thoughtful state funding.
Okay, so how would you connect with the community and parents to get them more informed and involved in the schools?
Well, in this day and age, with all of the technology that exists, in large part, I think we're doing the best we can. There's different apps, there's electronic media, there's email, there's the text messages that go out. Some districts still put out a monthly newsletter that I'm still a fan of, but apparently I'm showing my age by not buying into all the digital technology. it's more the better. If we all want to look back, as Ann said, back to the 90s, there was two times that grades were reported or communicated home. One was a progress report, the second one was the report card. That had its benefits and its disadvantages, depending on how great of a student you were and what grades that you were getting at the time. Now with the online grading, everybody seems to have instant access, and that has its advantages and disadvantages as well. But in large part, the more communication, the better. The more accurate communication, the better. And then hopefully we can filter that down to our kids and to our students, so they can live in this world where everybody knows everything about everything all at the exact same time.
I tend to agree with Mark on some of that. Yeah, I think communication is, there's so many different ways to communicate now, right? Between the technology and social media and just like the different things that schools use to get things out there. As a parent and as a teacher, like, we're more connected than ever. And I think the thing is getting the buy-in from the other side, because as a teacher, I can sometimes send out emails that it's crickets, right? I get no response. I don't know if they got it. I don't know. There's just not a response. And then on the flip side of that, I have parents I hear from all the time, right? So I know, they're actively engaged in what's going on. It doesn't mean just because I don't hear from the parents not actively engaged, right? So it's our job to kind of get the information out there the best that we can and advocate for that. And I just take some of my own experience with that. Is a lot of times it's through the kids, right? I just got to get the stuff out there to them and share. And still end up getting the parent. I get like seniors that are like getting ready to graduate from school, and we've been talking about, you got to go to your apprenticeship and you got to do 4 years. You got to do your 8,000 hours, and then I get mom comes in. It's like, so what's Jimmy got to do? So you do the best you can. You get the information out there as many different ways as you can, and you roll with what you get and do the best you can with it.
Thank you. So I think, in my own experience, connection means being present in the community. I'd say that I attend a lot of school events, the concerts, the games. I haven't been as active in the PTO as much as I would want to currently. I am, much to my daughter's chagrin, active on the community pages sometimes. I think being present in our community, not being afraid to go up to people that I see at games, introduce myself, ask them what they feel about their experience in Shaker Regional School. Not everybody is out of work on time to be able to be at a school board meeting at 6 o'clock. Like I spoke about in my introduction, I'm sort of uniquely in that position that I'm able to do so. We have been blessed that Mr. Rivera films most all of the events in Shaker Regional. So I know I have been on the baseball field watching a school board meeting, wondering what's going on in my community. Many families, I think, don't engage because they don't understand how decisions are made, how they affect their families and their children. I would support clear, consistent communication about board decisions. I think we're really good about that, though. I think that we have really gotten to a point with, like Mark said, social media and some of the outlets that we have to be communicating with families in an effective way. Let's see, involvement grows when I think people feel valued and that their opinions feel valued. And I'd really like to use my lovely outgoing personality to be able to meet everybody in the area and try to get the best for our community. Thank you.
I think the school district does a great job of giving out information. The school district has a Facebook page and it often has new updates on it. But communication is two-way. And I found the importance of asking a question last year. I had the opportunity to attend a school board meeting that was held down at Canterbury. And it happened to be the time when the kids presented what their after-school clubs were. And I didn't know if it was an after-school program or if it was actually clubs that met like often. And so I asked a simple question. I was like, how often do you meet? And you should have seen the kids. They lit up and they got all excited and they all wanted to answer at the same time because somebody asked a question. And so that's what I want to do to our community. I want to ask questions. I want to listen. Thank you.
Communication is actually something that we've talked about a lot on the school board these last few years. And I know that one of the things that I have been very fortunate to do, although I don't know that any of the other school board members are going to agree with me that I was fortunate in it, I think I was, to be the New Hampshire School Boards Association delegate for the last 2 years. So I've been able to sit in on some of those meetings and listen to some of the school boards of distinction give their PowerPoints on what they've done, how they became a school board of distinction. And for the last 2 years, both of them have really harped on communication. So that is something that we've talked about a lot. I do know that Michael does a fantastic job with the emails. Kim does a fantastic job with the social media. At a certain point, though, I feel like people are going to get annoyed if Michael's in their inbox every single day. So one of the things that we did talk about, in both communities, both Canterbury and Belmont, there's definitely a contingent that would prefer to have a piece of paper in their mailbox. A piece of paper in their mailbox that says, this is what's going on at the high school, this is what's going on at the middle school. And that's definitely something we've talked about. Unfortunately, with certain budget constraints, we haven't been able to sort of follow that through. But that is one of the things that I think would be really great for communication.
All right. What do you feel are the main points of emphasis that our school board should focus on in order to progress the district as a whole over the next 3 to 5 years?
Why don't we give you start down there, come back.
Thanks. Yes, so. Over the next 3 to 5 years, our focus must be on strengthening competitiveness, communication, and long-term sustainability. Open enrollment is becoming a reality. Families will have more choices, and that means we cannot assume that students will stay. We must give them reasons for choosing us. First, we need to ensure that our academic and extracurricular offerings are strong, relevant, and aligned with student interests and workforce needs. Whether that's advanced coursework, career pathways, STEM opportunities, arts, athletics, or innovative programs, we have to be forward-thinking. Second, we need to communicate better. Many families don't fully understand the breadth of our programs and opportunities that are available in our district. Clear, consistent communication builds trust and pride, and it helps to retain and attract students. Third, we have to balance opportunity with fiscal responsibility. Expanding or enhancing programs requires careful planning and sustainable funding. Progress does not mean overspending, it means investing strategically. If we focus on being competitive, transparent, and student-centered, our district will not just adapt to change, it will thrive. Our responsibility is simple: deliver strong outcomes for students, respect taxpayers, and ensure our district remains a place families are proud to choose.
I've been thinking about what the student needs to be successful in the future. And success starts at kindergarten and first grade level, such as understanding money and financial management. It can be basic and easy for those kindergartners and first graders, and then proceed as they go through to high school. So by the time they graduate, they understand what a budget is, what they need for their monthly rent, so they don't spend all their money on buying lifetime knives when they can't pay their rent. And then I've also thought of maybe we need many workshops, such as cyber security, AI awareness, so they understand that not everything they see on the internet is true. Sometimes if I see a cat dressed up in clothes and driving a car, that's a good clue it's not real. But some of the videos you see on YouTube, it makes you wonder, is that really true? Is that real news? And so we need to have our students become more aware of AI awareness, the ethics of using it in the classroom and at home, as well as other types of cybersecurity and whatever else may be beneficial to them to be successful as they graduate from this high school.
Over the next 3 to 5 years, I think the school board should focus on 3 main areas: academic excellence, financial sustainability, and strong school culture, which I think we do have a pretty decent school culture here. First, academic excellence has to remain our core mission. It's of the forefront. We should be regularly reviewing student performance data, curriculum alignment, and instructional practices to ensure that students are all making meaningful progress. That includes supporting, like you said, early literacy, strengthening math outcomes, making sure we're preparing students not just for graduation, but for whatever path they choose, college, career, and skilled trades. Continuous improvement guided by data and teacher input should drive our decisions. We definitely need to be reaching out to our teachers and getting their input. Financial sustainability is critical. With ongoing budget pressures, we need long-term planning rather than year-to-year adjustments. It means multi-year forecasting, careful contract negotiations, capital planning, consistent evaluation of programs to ensure that our resources are being used effectively. Stability in budgeting allows us to protect what matters most, classroom instruction, while being respectful of our taxpayers. We must invest in our people and our culture. Recruiting and retaining high-quality teachers and staff should be one of our top priorities. A positive school climate where students feel safe, supported, and engaged directly impacts their learning. Supporting professional development, student wellness, and clear behavioral expectations strengthens our entire district. Underlying all of this, communication and trust. Progress happens when the board, administration, staff, and our families, communities are all aligned around our shared goals. Over the next 3 to 5 years, our focus should be steady, strategic improvement, not chasing trends, but building strong, sustainable foundation that benefits every student in our district. Thank you, guys.
So over the years, my years that I've been in education, I've seen a lot of different initiatives that get started, and some of them continue, some of them fizzle out. And not all initiatives are meant to survive, right? Not everything should survive, but it's kind of a shame when it goes away because of funding shortfalls and things along those lines. And it's a bummer because when you lose it because of that, but it benefits the students, community district. That's kind of a bogus reason to lose something. I think over the next 3 to 5 years, it's important. The important topics will be keeping and attracting high quality teachers, because with fair teacher contracts, because they spend a lot of time with the students, right? They spend more time than probably most anybody else involved in the district with the students. I think it's important to protect important topics taught in the schools and initiatives in the district. And I think it's also important to advocate for our taxpayers, especially with the decreases coming through from the state year after year. As we do all this work, we need to keep the students at the forefront and be sure that we are creating lifelong learners who will contribute in meaningful ways to the community in the years to come.
Not a whole lot else can be said on this topic. I probably foolishly passed the mic down on the first one, but I can add a little bit. Just this morning, I was reading a research article, and it was comparing parenting and education of the '60s to parenting and education of today, and it started to pick it out and comparing the two. And if you look at, in its most extreme sense, the authoritative parent versus the gentle parent, in teaching as well. And again, it actually came to determination, and I'm not exactly sure where the study was done, but there's some validity to what we've left behind in previous decades of education. So that being said, I would really like to see an emphasis on direct instruction versus the reliance on technology. Technology is a tool, it is a resource. Should not be used as a main driving force in the education of students. And as Alice said, academic performance, and this is something that, Mr. Tercey, you and I disagree on. There's a focus on students having a plan and having a path post-secondary, education. And that is great. And I'm going to use myself as an example. Many years prior to graduation, I wanted to be an architect. And I spent a year and a half in an architectural program and realized this is the worst possible decision I could have ever made. I did not have contingencies. I did not have a different path, and that was a struggle. So just having a plan, just having a path isn't enough. You need performance, skill performance and academic performance to ensure that you can adapt, you can learn, and you can move forward through life. Or else you get tripped up on these hurdles, and sometimes it's tough to get back up if you skin your leg, hard enough. But the focus on, it was spoken about, financial sustainability. That one's going to be a tough one. I agree we have to figure something out, but unless the funding sources change, and again, not to go down a rabbit hole, but I've spoken to legislators about the possibility of a broad-based tax that acts like a sales tax. However, I don't want to see sales tax on my receipt. I want to see education tax, and I want to see the legislation written that every single nickel will go to education, and it can't be siphoned off to go to something else. And I'm always told, well, that'll never happen. So unless it's presented in a manner that people are going to buy in and see the value of the broad-based tax, that can is going to get kicked down the road, and the responsibility is going to fall onto us. So being efficient with our resources is what we have, and it's what we're going to be dealt with, and we're just going to have to do the best with it. But that's what I'd like to see in the next 3 to 5 years is a transition away from some of the initiatives that are going to be proven as inappropriate or not necessarily effective within education. They may have sounded right at the time, but long-term results and long-term research just might not be there.
That's the last of my questions. Just as a reminder to all voters, if you are voting for a write-in candidate, you must write the name of the candidate and fill in the vote.
All right, my next couple questions are for my Belmont Selectmen candidates. So we're going to start off. What is your vision for the future of the town of Belmont? What would you like to see for changes, and what do you want to remain the same?
All right, my vision for Belmont. I like to see it stay the way it is. A nice, small, friendly town that it is now. A great place to raise a family, and you have your kids stay here and buy a house, raise their family, just like my son did. He's decided to stay because he loves Belmont too, and his kids love Belmont. It's a great, great town. I'd like to see some businesses come into town. I think we've got to try to get some businesses in the commercial and industrial areas along 106, 140, Route 3, to help alleviate some of the burden, of the tax dollars on people. And I want to see a business that comes in that's going to be supplying jobs for people in Belmont that can go to. I not see a storage unit come in. There's tax dollars, but it doesn't help out the rest of the town any more than that as far as supplying jobs and stuff like that. I think Belmont is a great town, and I think the people here really like the town and like the people that are in here, and they're friendly to each other. At the grocery store, I don't know how many times, it's like old home day at the grocery store, because people are coming up to you, oh, hey, hi, how are you, what's going on, hey, what's doing? Because the town people are friendly with each other. And that's what I'd like to see stay, and I think that's one of the great parts that makes, Belmont a very nice community.
I'm actually going to expand a lot on what Tom just said, because when Belmont's a small town, you can't really change much, or you're going to hear about it. But I do want to be able to have my kids be able to stay here, but for them to be able to stay here, it has to be more affordable. Like Tom said, to do that, we got to bring in commercial businesses. To bring commercial businesses in, besides storage units, you have to, Ron, I got this, you have to put water and sewer down 106. There's no business that will go on 106 without water and sewer. I've been working with another resident about a grant to try and hopefully help us with water and sewer. I know it was tried. I'm trying, okay? And that's the only sustainable way, is bring in more revenue. I don't want to raise fees, don't want to raise residential taxes, but to get commercial business is the biggest thing that Tom said.
We'll expand that. Thanks. So I share some of the views that my colleagues over here do as well. However, I look at things a little bit differently. I look at future. Where's Belmont's future going? I told you that I came here in 1977. When I came here in 1977, there were less than 2,000 people that lived in this town, and 90% of the roads were dirt. Now look at what we have. We have over 8,000 people living in town. We have commercial development. We have houses going up everywhere. Well, with that, we have other issues. One of the biggest issues facing us today is that we need to pass a budget. We have to pass a town budget. Now, you can sit here and you can say, no, we need to cut the taxes down. You are digging a hole for yourself. Because when you don't have money to operate a town, then you have to give up services. We can't afford to give up services, whether they're highway, police, fire, or town hall. So we need to pass this budget to keep this town rolling. If the town runs out of money at the end of the year, we have to go to the bank and borrow it. The town has to function. So the budget is very, very important. And one of the other things that's important, I think, in the era that we're in now, is our communication with the school board needs to be better. We need to meet with the school board and have meaningful conversations about the budget and where we're going and how we're gonna get there. Because if we keep cutting the town budget, and we have to take away from the highway department, that means your roads aren't gonna get taken care of. Your roads are gonna fall apart. Who's gonna pay? Where's the money coming from to pave your roads and fix your potholes? If the police department has to give up manpower, you're giving up services that you get now. What if the town lost enough money by defunding the budget that you have to give up your trash collection? How many people would want to pick their trash up and put it in their BMW and take it down to the transfer station? Not many. That's a great service. That's $1 million. That's $1 million to have that service in town. So we have to look at the future. And, the infrastructure that we have is old. We've had 4 water main breaks this year. A minimum water main break is $10,000 to repair. That's minimum. And it goes up from there. So on an average, you got $50,000 that came out of the highway budget this year that wasn't anticipated. Cut the budget. What happens now? So we have to look at things in a lot better light. We have a project down 140 right now that's going to estimate to be around $10 million to replace the sewer line. That's an expensive cost. So we need to find ways to pay for that. We need to get into our legislature, we need to get into our Senate, and we need to find federal money, federal aid to help us. These are things that we have to look for in the future. It's great, to have Belmont and think back at how it used to be, and it's a great community. It is a great community, but it takes a lot to operate a community. So future thinking is something that's very important. I agree with both of them that the commercial growth has to happen, But Belmont's not gonna fund a sewer and water project on 140 or on 106. We're gonna need federal aid and state aid for that. We're gonna have to go after the money to do this. And when we do, they will come. It's like building a baseball field. So there's things that we have to do and be careful about. And as far as what I'd like to see stay the same is the employees that we have. We have a great fire department. We have a great police department. The highway department is second to none. These guys work their butts off for us. The town hall, they work very hard for us. I'd hate to see that change and give up services. I, for one, I don't want to take my trash to the recycling center. Yeah, as it is, I have to travel a half a mile just to put my bucket out to 107. But I'll do that. So that's my take on it, and thank you.
All right, this next question, we are sort of going to talk about that infrastructure more. How can the town better plan for future use of town properties, and what do we need to do to complete current projects? Please explain your vision for the completion of the town hall and mill project and other infrastructure projects.
I was gonna say, it seems like it's last year's question.
Yeah.
It's last year's question. It was like word for word.
The voters of Belmont, oh, what's your vision for the future of Belmont? What about? Oh, the voters of Belmont have voted down the budget for the last 2 years. How can the town do a better job of communicating the importance of the budget to the voters? Okay. Let's go.
Communicating the budget to people is hard. The people's lifestyle now, they're very busy. The town has a voter guide, that's at, town hall. It's all, voter guide is also in the town report. You can get it online, like off the town website. There's been other places that it's been put up. And it's very long to read. If you want to sit there and you start looking at reading, there's a lot of articles, and I think people tend to get bored. Sorry to say, but when they start going down, they'll go down a little bit, then they start losing interest because of the length of it and everything. But that's what's needed, for our budget. When my proposals, if something that, if I was elected, I would look into, is the town has a YouTube channel. People watch YouTube videos to learn many different things. If they want to learn how to fix their faucet, something's wrong with the refrigerator, whatever, people go to YouTube and watch videos. And that's kind of the way media is working nowadays on learning stuff. What I'd like to see is something put on YouTube, break the whole budget down into sections, have it on, a video on there showing what it is there, and have it narrated. So that people can sit and listen to bits and pieces at a time and learn what they're voting on. Because that's the problem. People come in, they don't get the whole picture of what's being voted on, and they get into the ballot box, and they start going down, and then they get to a point that reading this, and then they just, same thing, get bored. And they may check yes, or they may just start checking no. But people need to be educated on that, to actually know what they're, give a yes vote because you agree with it, or give a no vote because you don't agree on it. Don't give a vote because you're having a no vote because you didn't even read it. So I would like to see something like that. If we can get the budget on YouTube, like I said, break it down into different sections, try to do it, 5 to 8 minutes at a time, because people could start looking to go somewhere else. They can put in their earbuds and just listen to it narrated while they're washing their dishes or doing other stuff, or, around the house. And they can become educated that way. So I think that's a very good way to the communications out there.
So there is many ways to communicate the budget to the voters, but I think it doesn't matter how many unique ways we try to communicate to the voters if we're yelling to the same voters at every single meeting, like here, like the same faces I see at deliberative. The voters need to interact a little bit more with us as well. Like Ann said, communication is two ways, and I tried for my 3 years on the board of getting night meetings. We got night meetings and we don't see anyone show up to meetings. I know it's not going to be votes, but it's a two-way street. We need the voters to interact more with us as well. Ask us questions. We're the board members. Our phone numbers are out in public. Everything's in public. Our addresses, email, everything. You can find us if you have questions. Ask them if you have them. But voters do have to communicate, I think, better with us.
I agree. I agree with you on that. The town has made many efforts to do this. I mean, the select board meetings, they're recorded. You can watch them at the leisure in your home. You can learn about what's going on by watching the select board meetings. You can go to the planning board meetings and figure out and listen to what's being brought into town and what the discussions are. And budget committees, when the budget committee meets in the fall, you can go to those meetings. You can listen to what's being talked about with regards to the budget, where the money is and how much money that people are asking for. You can go when the department heads have to come forward and present their budget to the budget committee. You can do the same thing when the budget's being presented to the select board. So there's many ways that the town has tried to get this information out there to the public. And I'm not quite sure, a YouTube video is going to do any better. One thing that they haven't tried, and here we are trying to cut money, but if you did a mailing, it was mentioned by the vice, I believe, she mentioned doing a mailer, and I'm thinking quarterly mailers out to the registered voters in town, with the property owners, and giving them a quarterly update on what's going on. But we have a newsletter that goes out every month that explains things that have gone on in town. So waiting to read a voter's guide a week before or so the election and the time to vote for a budget is not the time to educate yourself. You have to have this information ahead of time so you can make a very good decision on what you want to do. So I'm kind of at a loss on what more we can do, or even what I could do if I'm elected to help this process. But I'm willing to try anything. But Travis hit the nail on the head. We need more communication from the public. We need them to come forward and ask and talk to us about what they want or what direction they want to go. Just flatly denying the budget is not the answer. Thanks.
Thank you all for being patient with us.
Hi, I'm Ethan Rivera. This is for my Canterbury Selectmen. What is your vision for the future of the town of Canterbury? And what would you like to see for changes, and what do you want to remain the same?
So much like Belmont, if you poll the average Canterbury resident, they would want things to remain exactly as they are. And, it's interesting, I've talked to some very elderly residents in Canterbury who, remember when the town had, I think one guy told me the town had less than 500 people when we moved there. So we're up to about 2,500 now. So clearly things change, but speaking as the farmer, I want things to stay as they are. I love my rural agricultural Canterbury. So that's what I would like to see remain the same. We also have two development areas, a commercial zone and an industrial zone. The commercial zone is down by exit 17, The industrial zone is up by exit 18. So those are areas where I would really like to see some development go in. 18, we have just not had much activity there. There's a lot of potential there. It's literally right next to I-93. So it would be easy on, easy off, as would the commercial area at exit 17. It would be very easy for business to come in and be very successful there, I think. Did I answer everything on your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Should I do the other question?
Is there anyone?
Yeah. All right. The town and the planning board are working to consider future growth in Canterbury. How do you envision making Canterbury more welcoming and affordable to younger workers and their families?
There's a question. So then, first of all, it's a great question, and it is a question that we talk about all the time in Canterbury. If you look at the average Canterbury resident, you'll see what you see on me. Not a lot of hair, and what's left is gray or white, so Canterbury is aging. And, you know, the trick is, how do we affect a change in that? And we haven't really hit on anything yet. I mean, property values and property prices are what people are left with. You know, for a lot of people, that's kind of their legacy to pass on to their children when they pass. Especially in Canterbury, property values have gone up greatly. I would love to get my farm, you know, for a cheaper price, but looking at what property values are now, we did really well. So, you know, I think that the recent changes in the state laws regarding accessory dwelling units is a start. It's ADUs, for those of you that don't know, are now by right instead of by permit. So assuming you meet all the setback requirements, you can just go to your local building department and apply for a permit. So we are seeing some activity there, which I think will help. You know, as my wife and I, when we moved here, we joked about, you know, moving into a small single-story house, you know, and aging in place. Well, we found a 230-year-old house with 2 staircases and what looks like a ladder going down into our basement. So we didn't plan that part very well. So, you know, maybe someday we'll put up a single-story ADU and then rent the house out. So things like that may help as well. So. Okay.
No?
Okay.
What was it last year's?
Yeah, the question that mixed up.
Okay, no worries.
All right, everybody, thank you for coming tonight. You have given the voters much to think about. A special thanks goes out to Mr. Matthew Finch and Madame Candidates for the tremendous work putting this together. Please help yourself to light refreshments provided by the National Honor Society over there. And as well as our blood drive for the Red Cross, you can get some pamphlets from Ms. Angwin. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.